business ownership, networking, and marketing. Mr. Dalakian has consulted on numerous projects and is known for his commitment to God, dedication to his family, and his enthusiasm for business. Glen is one of the founders of the Colts Neck Business Association and has served on its executive board since its inception, including 4 terms as president. In 2013, he led the organization to a record membership of 217 businesses, Blue Claws included. Glen has owned a number of businesses throughout the years in a variety of markets. He also uses his entrepreneurial experience as the host of the business radio talk show Tandem Radio, currently broadcasts on 7 FM radio stations throughout New York and New Jersey. At this time, Glen's focus is CSAV Systems, which over the last 4 years has shown a growth with record sales increases of over 40% per year. Ladies and gentlemen, Glen Dalakian.
Thank you. He kept saying Mr. Dalakian. I was looking for my father. But I appreciate the bio, and the only reason why we gave the bio to Kevin, to be honest with you, is, many times I go to events myself looking for information, looking to meet people like yourselves and listen to speakers and hopefully glean some nuggets. And I always wonder sometimes if the person up there is really doing something that is on track, or they're just talking about it. I don't know, how many ever been to a place where the person really doesn't know what they're talking about, they're just talking, right? So hopefully that gives you a little insight to why Kevin asked me to speak tonight. And not that it's about kudos for me or anything, but I've just had a lot of experience, and that experience has led to some success, especially recently. And so hopefully I can share some of that success with all of you. And my goal is that each one of you at least have something you take home with you tonight that can help you in your business come tomorrow morning. Maybe it's something you're already doing and you're reminded of it. That's many of the cases for me. I often need reminders of how to do things right. Or maybe it's something innovative that you haven't heard before that can help you with your business. As Kevin mentioned, I write for a group called The Journal. They publish magazines. We have some of them on the table here. They publish magazines throughout Monmouth and Middlesex County. It goes out to about 70,000 subscribers. I write a column called Business Matters. And one of the things I'd like to discuss with you tonight is one of those columns that I think can help each and every one of you in this room tonight. So again, I'm not really a comedian or an entertainer, but I like to throw out to you some of my personal experiences that has an impact on my company's growth, and hopefully that'll help you as well. The title, if I have one, for what we're talking about tonight is what I call Sales Are Scales. And it hit me one time when I was driving to an appointment very recently, and I wrote an article about it, which we'll give you a copy of this article when I'm done. But I started thinking about what makes people successful in sales. Now, some of you may have just switched off because you're thinking, well, I'm not really in sales. I do this or I do that. How many people get bugged sometimes when people say, oh, you're a salesperson? You ever get bugged by that? Mm-hmm. I had a guy at a network thing recently, he came up to me and he says, so what do you do? And I said, what do you think I do? And he said, you're a salesman. And I said, well, that's strike one. And then I said, really? What do I sell? He says, cars. So I went home and I burned my suit and never went out dressed like that again. But there's no car salesman here. Some of my best friends are car salespeople, right? But seriously, I felt I was giving the wrong impression. But anyway, but the point is that sales, we're all responsible for sales. If you're in a business, big or small, quite honestly, if you haven't dipped your foot in the sales aspect of your company, you just haven't recognized it. Because bottom line is, and I try to express this to all the people who work with me, that we're all involved in sales. Because what is the key to sales? In my opinion, the key to sales are people skills. All about knowing about people and learning about people. Now I know a lot of you sitting here saying, well, I know this already, and that's fine, because some, like I said, some of this might be a reminder, some of it might be a little innovative. But here's the point. I feel very strongly that when we go out and sell something, people are looking at us, obviously, right? They're thinking about us, they're listening to us, they're interacting with us. But all during this, subconsciously, there's a set of scales in their mind. There's a set of positive scales on one side and negative scales on the other side. And as they're talking to you, these scales are flowing, even though we're not seeing it. They're physically flowing and mentally flowing in their mind. And if they lean on the positive side, they're going to do business with you. If they lean on the negative side, they're not going to do business with you. And that's really the point of what I'm wanting to get across tonight. Sales are scales. Now, a lot of people think, well, it's dollars and cents. and they come out of the gate with, hey, I got a better product cheaper. And that's fine, that might be your approach, but you know what? That doesn't do much for the scales. It sends you right to one position or the other. As a matter of fact, it almost ends your deal right there. You're either going to win it or lose it. Because when you come out of the gate with dollars and cents, there's no place else to go. So you're either really the cheaper guy or you're really the more expensive guy. But here's the benefit. If you're using dollars and cents as your sales approach, I want to encourage you to go in a totally different direction. Because people are sizing you up from the minute they meet you. And there's a couple of key points I'm going to give you in a second, 5 of them that I wrote about, that help you to tip the scales in your favor. Because I have to tell you, one of the things that my main company right now, CSAV Systems, we install commercial sound and video systems in like hotels, restaurants, department stores. People don't really know what that is. But quite honestly, if you ever go into a sports bar and you see TVs all around, that's my technology. Or if you ever go to a conference center or go into a hospital and hear paging overhead or music, that's our systems. That's what we do. But the reason why I tell you that is because we deal with high-ticket items. Our average sales are between $25,000 and $50,000 a sale. And because of that, we put a little more time and effort in our deals, and we spend more time building relationships. But here's the thing. Whether you sell a $5 widget or a $50,000 system, the scales are still in play. And the question is, where do you want those scales to go? You want them to go in a place, obviously, where you're going to win. And here's the good news. It's not about the money. How many people have sold something to someone that you were higher than the next guy, the other bid? Right? Just about everybody in this room. And why is that? It's not because, obviously, the money, they took that off the table. It was because you made a more positive impact in their mind than the other person did. So here's the thing. If we know that, right, if we know that this positive impact makes a difference, then where do we go from there? Well, first off is recognizing. Second is being proactive and making it work for you. So when you walk into an environment, simple things like how you dress, how you handle yourself, what you have to say, those are all part of the scales. And everything you're doing and saying is either tipping those scales in your favor or against you. And if you're cognizant of that before you even walk into the deal, you can start to create habits. Now again, these things are very awkward. I mean, if you're used to wearing, shirts, polo shirts and jeans and so forth for business, and all of a sudden you come out in this tuxedo to see your clients, they're going to be freaked out. And you know what? You're going to be freaked out too, because you're going to be very uncomfortable. So I'm not saying that's a switch you have to make overnight. But these are things that are going to come on you and eventually become habits. And once they're habitual, that's when you'll see the scales really tipping in your favor. And I'm talking about this because it's worked for me. In my industry, the average closing ratio is 4 out of 10. If you study our industry, 4 out of 10 proposals that people write in our industry get sold. My personal closing average is 7.6 out of 10 because of this sales or scales concept. Because I do my best to stack the deck in my favor. Now some of the points, because I don't want to be long, because I really get I feel a lot more comfortable when someone's brief, so I'm going to be brief. But the 5 points in my article, and you can read more about it as we get this out to you, starts with dress right. And these aren't any priority, so dress right, all right? So dress appropriately. Dress a step up from your competitors. Now again, you may be in a business where it's not appropriate to wear a suit and tie, and that's fine. But in my business, I deal with a lot of corporate people. And I'm shocked how many of my competitors walk in polo shirts and jeans and sneakers, and they're talking to people who are wearing suits and ties. So in my profession, for you to walk in like that, it makes a statement. And it gives the person an image immediately. Your scale starts to tip. I'll tell you, what's an expert? You ever hear that? What's an expert? A guy from out of town in a suit and tie with a briefcase. That's basically it. When people see you dressed right and you present yourself right from the get-go, all of a sudden they give you credibility. The scales are tipping in your favor. Greet with a smile. It's important to smile no matter what you do. Even when you're making the calls that you dread to make. If you're smiling on the phone, people feel it through the phone. It's so important to smile. I'll never forget, I was involved in a business that I grew across the country and was fairly successful. We were doing real well, and I had a mentor, a guy who was the best in the industry, and I wanted to be mentored by this guy. And I finally got to meet him one day. And I'll never forget, I got like 15 minutes of his time, and I said, look, I really want to know what you're doing so I can take my business to the next level. And he said, you want me to give it to you straight, or do you want me to give it to you sugarcoated? I said, no, I'm here to get it straight. I want to find out, what do I got to do? So he said to me, are you excited about your business? And I said, very much so. And he goes, why don't you notify your face? It was like a 2x4 in my head. I never forgot that. After that moment, I used to literally practice in my car, driving down the street, looking in the mirror like this. And even sometimes when I'm upset, I'll be walking down the street upset, and I'll still smile because of the habit. And it makes a difference. And as a matter of fact, in that business, after a while, people got to start calling me the smiling guy. And it was kind of funny when I used to think back at that before that guy told me that, I never smiled. But I do my best to keep the smile going. Be slow to speak, quick to listen. We've all heard that, right? How many of us do it? Even on network things, right? How many times somebody comes to you right out of the gate, hey, I'm and you're like, you know, all right, well, I don't even remember what I do now, right? I mean, you have to be slow to speak, quick to listen, because the point is that if you don't know why the person's there and what they're really interested in, what can you really offer them? Every sale has to custom fit the buyer. And remember, nobody likes to be sold, but everybody likes to buy. As soon as they feel you're just rat-tat-tatting your sales, your scale is tipping in the wrong direction. So keep in mind that it's important to listen. And salespeople, for some reason, have picked up the habit that silence is deadly. It's not necessarily true. A lot of times I'll say to a client, hey, so how do you feel about our price? And I'll sit there and wait for an answer. So many salespeople I see jump in and they see silence and they go, well, I guess you don't like the price so much, and let's see if we can work on it, whatever. Maybe the client's just thinking. Maybe they need some breathing room. Give them that space. Let people love to be listened to. Think about the people you like the most. Are they the people who talk the most or talk the least? Usually the people you like the most are the ones who listen to you the most. So think about that. Be quick to speak, slow to speak, quick to listen. Another adage I've used and gotten from someone else, actually a mentor, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Kind of ties right into the speaking issue. Do you really care about the person on the other side of the table, or are they just a dollar sign? Believe me, if you're walking in there going cha-ching, and this is a dollar sign, that's going to be felt by the person on the other side of the table, whether you say it or not. Keep in mind that they want to know that you care about their situation and that you're offering a solution that meets their needs. So it's not about what's all your list of features and all your list of benefits. It's about what can you do for that person. Believe me, you could sit there and list off 20 things that they need. Number one, they're only going to remember 3 of them, and at best. And number 2, they're only going to care about a handful of those. So why not find out in advance what those handful are that they care about the most and deliver on that? Let everybody else be the one who just couldn't care less and is rat-tat-tatting their stuff. They're the ones whose scale is going to go in the other direction. You want your scale to go in the positive direction. And lastly in the article, always maintain your integrity. I can't express this enough. Always maintain your integrity. There's so many things to be said about integrity and commitment, but there is no substitute. If you tell a client you're going to deliver something, deliver it. If you tell a client you're going to be there at a certain time, be there. There's so many things that impact our integrity, and what we don't realize is that becomes like something on your back. Even at networking, I do a lot of networking. I go to a lot of network events. I love being out there. I love talking to people. When you start to get a bad rap, it follows you around everywhere you go. Protect your integrity. And no one can protect your integrity but you. And no one can take your integrity away from you but you. So keep that in mind. It's important when you walk into any situation, maintain your integrity. And what do I mean by that from a sales perspective? If you don't know an answer to a question, tell the customer you don't know the answer. Here's the answer to every question you'll ever be asked. If you started in what you're doing right now, if you started tonight or if you started 10 years ago, here's the answer to any question you don't know the answer to. That's a great question. I don't know the answer to that, but I know how to find out and I will get back to you. True professionals, the kind of people you want to do business with, they appreciate that. They don't need an answer man or answer gal. They don't expect you to know everything. But if you come off like you know everything, then what are you? Know-it-all, right? So that doesn't work either. So keep that in mind. Simple things like if you don't know the answer to a question, don't make up an answer. Be upfront with a person and let them know, hey, I don't know the answer to that question, but I can certainly find out and get back to you. There's so many different things we can talk about in the integrity realm. I'm sure all of you know what I'm speaking about. Even when you're cornered, do yourself a favor. When you lie, you have to have a very good memory. And salespeople, as we do, we like to say what needs to be said to make the deal sometimes, and we all stretch it at one time or another. But remember, if you're telling stuff that's not the facts, if you're telling stuff that's not the truth, you're going to have to remember that, or it's going to bite you. And the more you do that, the worse you're going to be as far as remembering. I heard a long time ago that a short pencil is better than a long memory. So keep that in mind. I have a hard time telling people what's not true because I can't remember it all. So I apologize if I've ever lied to you. I'm sorry about that. But the point is that do yourself a favor. Maintain your integrity. Because at the end of the day, what's the most important thing? You got to be able to go home and put your head on the pillow. I don't care how big a deal it was. I don't care how well it went for you. If you compromise your integrity to make it happen, it's going to come back to bite you in business. More importantly, it's going to bite you in here on a regular basis. It's always going to be something that's going to bug you for the long term. There's so many more things I could talk to you about. I promise, Kevin, I keep it brief, and I hope it was helpful to you. I want to just offer you two things. One is this article, which Lauren, who works with me, was kind enough to bring with me, so you don't have a copy of it. It's the article that details what I just talked about. But on the back, I just want to give you something real quick that you can take home with you. It's called Stay in Touch with Your Prospects and Clients. Just one more tip, maybe a little outside of what we were talking about. But I always found this very interesting. 2% of sales are made on the first contact. 2% on the first contact. 48% of sales reps quit after the first attempt. Think about that. 3% of sales are made on the second contact. 5% of sales are made on the third contact. 10% of sales are made on the fourth contact. 80% of sales are made on the fifth contact or later. All right? And here's what it says, 43 to 65% of all leads eventually close. 87% of leads are never pursued. Follow-up, I can't express it enough. Follow-up is so important. It's that fourth, that fifth call that makes the difference. If you make calls to some people and you haven't gotten back to them in a long time, because maybe you think they went cold or whatever, hey, either somebody else is following up and they made the deal happen, or you just haven't followed up enough yet. So I encourage you to stick with it, stay with it. Don't be a pest. You don't want people to say you're a pain, but stay with it. Professional follow-up is greatly appreciated by professionals, and you want to make sure that you do the follow-up to get your just reward, the sale you want to make. Remember, sales are scales. Keep the positive in your favor. Thank you.
As Glenn was talking, I did get word in my ear that we will have baseball tonight, which is exciting. I'm actually going to run down and help them pull the